Hello guys, very warm welcome to the class. My name is Ishwinder and I'm going to be your math tutor for SAT exam, right? So I'll be taking your math portion of your SAT exam. So before I start with the class, let me discuss how we are going to proceed with the class. First of all, I'll just quickly go through some of the basic of mathematics, like basic of mathematics you are going to need in a class for this year SAT exam. Then we are going to learn something about graphing in XY. So everything we are going to discuss from scratch. You guys don't need to worry. So let's get started. Now, let me share my screen with you. Okay. Now, I hope you guys can see the screen very well. Now, so first of all, it's in heart of algebra, right? So some beginning, we can say facts about mathematics. So just give me a moment. Okay. Now, you guys must have done what are real numbers and their subsets. Means what real numbers are the numbers which can be plotted on a number line. You take any number line. Let's say this is 0, 1, 2, 3. If you can find out the number on a number line, that is known as a real number. Now, if I talk of subsets, they can be whole numbers, integers, rational numbers, and irrational numbers. These all things you guys must have done. Constant and variable. So what's the difference? You know what the basic difference between constant and a variable? Constant is a quantity that has a fixed value. I say 2, 3, 4, 5. All the numbers are known as constants because why? Because you cannot change the value of constant. Variables are the quantities that can take a different value. Let's suppose you generally take alphabets x and y. Because they can take any value. X is equals to 2, y is equals to 2, they can take any value. Now, I'm just quickly going. Product and factors, you guys must have done it. What are product and factors, right? So let me clear my board. Okay. Now, you guys must have, also done what are the exponent rules, like what are the exponents, what are the laws of exponents. I'll just quickly go through it. X raised to power 1 is always equals to x, right? You take x raised to power 1 is equals to x. This means what you need, this power means what you need to multiply x by 1 time. X raised to power 0 is equals to 1. These are all the basic laws you guys must have done. All the basic laws that you guys have done in your previous classes. Don't need to go. Now let's, do one thing. Let's quickly do one example so that you can also refresh everything you guys have done, right? Now, let's suppose we have an example over here. X squared y cube is equals to 10. X cube y squared is equal to 8. We need to find out the value of x raised to power 5 and y raised to power 5, right? So how we can do this question? Now, if you see it very clearly, we multiply these two. Let's suppose if I say like this way, you know what, in SAT exam, you have to be very smart. It's not that you have to approach the question in a direct manner, right? So you have to apply a smarter tricks. That's what we will be teaching you, in our math classes. So if we multiply this, let's see what happens. We'll get what 10 into 8, right? Now, if you see, if you can apply the basic laws of exponents, when the bases are same, we can add the powers. So this will be x raised to power 2 plus 3, right? And we have a same y, so this can be written as, we can say y raised to power 3 plus 2. So this will come out to be x raised to power 5, y raised to power 5. The answer will be 80. So that's it, right? Now let's practice one more question over here. So let's practice this question. Now, let's try to understand this. So generally students have, so we are given x 2 raised to power x plus 3 minus 2 raised to power x is equals to k into 2 raised to power x, right? Now, we need to find the value. Students try to do is what they'll try to take 2 raised to power x common out and get what 2 raised to power 3 minus 1 is equals to k into 2 raised to power x, and they will cancel out this like this way and say the value of k. The value of k will be, we can say, yes, the value of k is equals to 7, right? That's a great method. I'm not saying it's not a bad, it's a bad method, but in SAT exam, you guys have to apply a smarter tricks. So what is my approach is what I'll do is I'll take the value of x is equals to 0. I'll take the value of x is equals to 0. So what will happen? I'll get 2 raised to power 0 plus 3 minus 2 raised to power 0 is equals to what? K into what? 2 raised to power 0. Why? Because 2 raised to power 0 will be equals to 1. So this will be 2 raised to power 3. This will be 2 raised to power 0 will be equals to 1. This is k. Now 2 raised to power 0 is equals to 1. So I can find the value of k as direct. I hope the things are clear. Great. So let's proceed further. Let's quickly proceed further. Great. Linear equation. Very easy, very easy topic. And I am sure like you might be knowing this topic because it's a easy topic, right? Now, but you should not take it lightly. It's easy but you should not take it lightly, right? Now, a linear equation. What is a linear equation? How we guys identify the linear equation? So let me just do one thing. Let me share my whiteboard so that I can explain you better. Great. Now I hope everyone can see the whiteboard now. I'll start with the linear equation, right? So let's suppose we have an equation like this: 3x plus 4y is equals to 12. Right now, first question is why this is a linear equation? Why this is a linear equation? Right? This is a linear equation, right? That's my question. How you identify this is a linear equation? Now, if you want to identify the given equation is a linear equation, now you guys need to check the degree of an equation. So what is a degree? Degree is the maximum power of a variable. Maximum power of a variable. Or it can be one variable, it can be two variables. Can be maximum power of a variables. Now, how many variables we have over here? We have two variables, x and y. So we have x and y as a two variable. What is the maximum power of both the variables? That is 1. If the maximum power of a variable is 1, so we can say it is a linear equation. If the maximum power of any of the given variable is 2, that is known as a quadratic equation. Then if the maximum power of the variable is 3, they are known as cubic equations. You know what, further if you go, they are generally known as polynomial. But we don't need to go right now, right? We'll discuss it later about quadratic equation. That's not a problem. So this is how you guys can identify whether the given equation is a linear equation. So we can clearly say that 3x plus 4y is equals to 12, which is a linear equation in two variables. It's not one variable, it's a linear equation in two variables. I hope the things are clear. Now let's proceed further. Let me share a new whiteboard. Just give me a moment. Just give me a moment. Great. Okay. Now let me clear the code. So now we were given 3x plus 4y is equals to. Now in your 10th standard, maybe you must have done how we can plot this linear equation in two variable on a graph paper. Right now, before I start discussing about how to plot on a graph paper, let me discuss something about the XY plane. What's the meaning of XY plane? XY plane means what? Let's suppose we have y-axis, we have x-axis. When we join these two y-axis and x-axis at 90-degree angle, let's say this angle is 90 degree, that forms an XY plane, generally, right? So let's say this is a y-axis and this is x-axis. So that this is known as a XY plane. Broadly, we can say. Now, what was a strategy we were using, like in your 10th standard, like how to plot this linear equation in two variable on a graph, like XY plane? We generally draw a grid like this way, box like this way, and we were told that we need to have at least 3 values of x and y, right? But that is not mandatory. Let me tell you, you don't need to have at least 3 values. You can also draw the linear equation in two variables using 2 values also. Now we have to apply a smarter way. We cannot bluntly, or we can say, because try to understand, this is not your board exams, this is your SCAT exam. You have to apply a smarter way of doing the questions, right? One of the smarter way is what we always take, you know what, in one condition we'll take the value of x is equals to 0. Let's suppose in another condition I'll take the value of y is equals to 0. Corresponding to that, I'll try to find out the value of another variable, right? Then I'll discuss it later. What's the meaning of this? What's the purpose of it? Now let's suppose in the first case scenario, if I take x is equals to 0, what happens? I'll get 3 into 0 plus 4y is equals to 12. Now this will come out to be 0 plus 4y is equals to 12. So y will come out to be 3. So I do have the first one. Now let's come to the second scenario. So we can say I'll take y is equals to 0. Now, when I take y is equals to 0, this will be 3x plus 4 into 0. That will be equals to 12. So this will be 3x plus 0 will be equals to 12. So I'll get 3x is equals to 12 and x will be equals to 4. Right? So you know what we have? So you can easily plot these values. So let's say the first value is 0, 4. So let's suppose this is, we can say 0 and 4. And the third, let's say this is 3 and 0. Now you can join them and you can plot the linear equation on the next one. This is a strategy you guys have to use in your SAT exam. Now, in your exam too, if you want to find out the equation on a XY plane for whatever the equation is given, right? Now, when you take, I'll discuss it later. When you take x is equals to 0, that is generally known as a y-intercept. You guys must be knowing it. We'll discuss it because it is really very important as per your SAT exams concerned, because you should know what is an x-intercept and what is a y-intercept. When you take y is equals to 0, that is known as x-intercept. Yes, x-intercept. Any kind of a doubt? I hope the things are clear. Okay. Now let's move forward. Now I'll take the same equation. You guys don't need to worry. I'll take the same equation. So this was the equation. 3x plus 4y is equals to 12. This was the equation we were discussing. Now let's try to express this equation in terms of x. Now what I mean to say is, what on the left hand side I'll keep y, and on the right hand side I'll try to keep x. Now can I rearrange the equation like this way? Let's suppose I'll have minus 3x plus 12, or you can write like this one. 4y is equals to what? 12 minus 3x. Now can I divide both sides? Can I divide both sides by 4? So let's suppose this will come out to be 4y upon 4. This will be equals to what? Minus 3x plus 12 upon 4. Now this and this will cancel out. I'll get y is equals to what? Now I can break the LCM, right? I can break the LCM. Meaning of the break the LCM is what? I can write like this way. Plus 12 by 4. So I'll get y is equals to what? Minus 3 by 4x plus 3. When you express the linear equation in two variable in this form, this is known as a slope intercept form. I'll discuss what's the meaning of slope. I'll discuss what's the meaning of intercept. You don't need to worry, right? So you guys don't have to worry. But this is a very famous, we can say, a representation of a linear equation in two variable form, that is known as slope intercept. I'll write the general equation for that. The slope intercept form is known as y is equals to mx plus c. Over here, this m represents the slope. We'll discuss what is a slope, and this c represents the y-intercept. It is not intercept. Do not confuse it with x-intercept or y-intercept. It is only y-intercept. We'll discuss it. What's the meaning of intercept? I hope the things are clear. Great. Now let's try to, first of all, let's try to find out the slope in this equation. Now we are given y is equals to minus 3 by 4x plus 3, right? Now if you just need to compare it. We just need to compare with the general equation. Just compare it. If you just compare it, can you see this representation? This means what? I can say that the slope is what? Minus 3 by 4. And what is a y-intercept? C value, that is 3. So you guys can get the direct values of slope and y-intercept. But in SAT exams, you don't have to find only the values, because you need to have a deeper understanding of the slope and intercept. Why? Because they'll ask you a lot of logical questions. They'll ask you a lot of, we can say, reasoning questions. So why I'm telling you? Because SAT exam is not only about solving the questions. It's not, maths exam is not only maths exam. It's mathematics plus language, logics plus language. You have to be very clear with that topic. That's a main reason, right? Now let's try to understand what is a slope, right? Let's try to understand what is a slope. Now, what is a slope? That is the biggest question, right? The biggest one. What is a slope? If you guys have issue, if you guys are in 11th standard, you might have done, sir, slope is what? M is equals to tan theta, that is perpendicular base. Slope can be negative, slope can be positive, slope can be something. No. We don't have to get into tan theta, cos theta, sin theta. Forget about trigonometry. When I say what is a slope, you have to think in a very simple language, layman language, simple. Everyone can understand what is a slope. So let's try to understand what is a slope. Let's suppose you are standing over here at a point, right? Now, let's suppose you're standing at point A. Now, let's suppose you are trying to go uphill. I hope you guys understand what's the meaning of uphill. Uphill means what? Let's say you guys are on a vacation, right? And there is you guys vacation on hill station, any hill station, awesome hill station. And I hope on hill station you guys can understand. You guys have to sometimes the roads are on inclination, right? Isn't it? They are at an angle. Isn't it? So that's the definition of slope, by the way. That's an inclination. Slope is an inclination, right? But we'll discuss. Slope is, I'll write it over here, slope is inclination. Or we can say it is steepness. Steepness, right? It's not sleepness, it's steepness, right? Now, great. So let's suppose you are trying to go from this point to A point, this is B. Uphill, this happens. So slope is generally defined by rise over run. Rise over run. When I say rise over run, what you need to do is what? Let's suppose this is a condition. You need to draw imaginary lines like this way. Rise means what? How much distance you have risen from point A to B. So this is known as a rise. Run means what? How much distance on a horizontal direction you have covered. That is known as a run. I hope you guys are clear now. What's the meaning of slope? How we need to find a slope? Slope, always remember, it's a rise over run. That's okay. We do have a general equation also. We can find the slope directly, but you need to understand what is a slope and what is a general way of finding a slope. That is really very important. Am I clear? Now, we'll be discussing further about the slope because it's really very important. But first of all, I want to discuss something more about XY so that you guys can better understand how we need to find out the slope when the linear equation in two variable is not given. So let's try to understand. Now, XY plane. First of all, XY plane. Now we discussed, you know what, recently, just way back for a moment, what is an XY plane? So if you take this as a Y axis, let's say if I take this as an X axis. Great. Now, I hope you guys know what is a coordinate. Like, let's suppose, I'll discuss it. Let's suppose if we are given a point A, how we can locate this point A. I can locate this point A using x-axis and y-axis. I can say, let's say this is y2. Let's say this is y1. Let's suppose this is given. Let's say this is x1 and let's say this is x2. Now, if I want to find out the location of point A, so that is going to be x1, y1. Now, let's suppose if I define one more point, let's say this is B. Let's say this is going to be x2, y2. I hope the things are clear. Now, let's do one thing. Let's suppose if I want to find out the distance between A and B. If I want to find out the distance between A and B. If I want to find out the distance between A and B, let's say, this is a point. I just need to join these 2 points. Now, if you see it very clearly, the distance between point A and B, how we can find? Okay. I'm so sorry. This is x2. This is y2. I'm so sorry. This is y2. Now, if you see it very clearly over here, point A and B, y2 is not changing. Y is not changing. Between A and B, y is not changing. You need to be very careful. But only x is changing. So I can say the distance between point A, B will be what? x2 minus x1. Great. Now I'll take one more point. Let's say if I take this point C, let's say this is a point C. The coordinates of the point C are what now? X1 and Y. X1 and Y. Now let's suppose if I want to find out the distance between AC. If I want to find out the distance between AC. So you know what is the distance between AC? Again, you guys need to apply the same concept, right? Now, what is the distance between point A and C? If you see it very clearly, in A and C, X is not changing. X is not changing. Only Y is changing. X is not changing. I'll write it over here. X is not changing. Only Y is changing. So distance between point A and C will be what now? Y2 minus Y1. So I can write over here y2 minus y1, and I can write over here x2 minus x1. Am I clear? Now, let's suppose now if I join the points, we can say it's BC. I'll use different color. Okay. Let's suppose if I join these 2 points. If I join these 2 points, right? Yes or no? If I join these 2 points. Now, if I join these 2 points, now there are 2 things I'm going to discuss over here. 2 things means what? First of all, let's suppose if I want to find out the slope of a line BC. Now, if I want to find out the slope is always equals to what? Rise upon run. Rise upon run. You guys agree? Now, what is a rise? How much distance we have risen over here? Can you see this is a rise? This is a rise. This is a rise, which is what? Y2 minus Y1, which is Y2 minus Y1. I can proudly write over here Y2 minus Y1. Great. Now, what is a run over here? How much distance we have run? How much distance we have run? That is what? X2 minus X1. So this is how we can find out the slope. Let's suppose if we are given the coordinates of the 2 points, we can find out the slope using this formula. This is how you guys have to find out the slope. This is what the slope is. Am I clear? I hope the things are clear. Perfectly fine. Great. Now, one thing more I would like to discuss, although that thing is just way out of the slope, but it's very important. Now, you guys have done in your 10th standard also. What if I want to find out the distance between, if I want to find out the distance between, we can say BC. I'll mark the points, this point and this point. If I want to find out the distance between BC, how we can do it? Now, you guys can apply Pythagoras theorem, isn't it? Because this angle is going to be 90 degrees. You guys can apply the Pythagoras theorem. Now, what does the Pythagoras theorem? I'll write it over here. You guys can apply the Pythagoras theorem. So Pythagoras theorem is hypotenuse square will be equals to what? Perpendicular square plus base square. So what is AB? AB is what? X2 minus X1. Okay. Just so AB is going to what? X2 minus X1 whole square plus what is AC? That is going to be what? Y2 minus Y1 whole square. So I can say that BC will be equals to what? Then X2 minus X1 whole square plus Y2 minus Y1 whole square. So this is the distance formula. You guys must have done in your 10th standard also. If you want to find out the distance between any 2 given points, any 2 given coordinate points. So this formula we can proudly use. I hope the things are clear. I know this point was way out of the league, like it was not related to slope, but it is very much related to slope also. When you will start practicing the questions, you don't need to worry, right? Great. Now let's move forward. Very important topic now. Very, very, very important, because this is the main thing. Interpretation of a slope. I'll write it over here. Interpretation. Now, if I say interpretation of a slope means what? You need to analyze the slope without solving it. Like, you know what? Sometimes what will happen in your SAT exams, the questions will be given to you, and they will intentionally give you these kind of questions. They will give you questions that will involve calculations. But if you understand the slope very well, then by looking at the option, you can directly answer it without solving it. So that's why we need to learn to interpret the slope. That's what we are going to discuss in this part of the class. Now let's try to understand the interpretation of the slope. So I'll discuss certain scenarios with you. So first of all, let's try. Now let's suppose we are given like this way. Just give me a moment. Let's suppose. Great. Now let's suppose if I draw a line like this way. Let's suppose like this way. Now they'll ask you, let's suppose they'll ask you, please tell us whether this line has a positive slope, negative slope, or zero slope, or something else. So now there are no coordinates given, no line of equations is given, nothing is given, but you have to tell them. But how you're going to tell? I'll try to draw one more scenario over here so that you guys can understand it better. Let's suppose like this way. Let's suppose. Now it seems very confusing, right? Now, which one is negative, which one is positive? There are chances of error. There are always chances of error. Now, in such a scenario, what you need to do is very famous trick. I personally use it most of the times. What you need to do is what you guys need to draw 2 parallel lines like this way on a given line. On a given line, you need to draw 2 parallel lines like this way. Now you need to write the definition of a slope. Slope is always what? Rise upon run, right? Slope is rise upon run. Everyone knows that. Now, imaginary, let's suppose you, for a starter practice, but once you know the concept, you don't need to do that. So let's suppose for a starting concept, let's say this is x1, y1, and let's say this is x2, y2. Now, what is rise over here? So you don't need to. Rise is increasing, isn't it? We are increasing with the value of x. We are increasing. Can you see? If you try to think, we are increasing with the value of y. Can you see? We have increased. So this is y2, this is y1. So basically we have increased. We have increased the value of y, and we have also increased the value of x. Let's say this is x1 and this is x2. So both are increasing. Both are increasing means what? Both are positive. So it has a positive slope. It has a positive slope. You guys agree? So I can proudly say that this line will have a positive slope. Now, let's come to this scenario. Same process. You need to draw the two parallel lines like this way. Let's draw like this way. And same point, as a starter, you know what? You can mark the points. Let's say this is, we can say x1, y1. And let's say this is x2, y2. Okay. Now, if you see, if you clearly see, this is y2, this is y1, this is x1, and this is x2. Can you see? Now, if you try to find out the slope, slope is always rise upon run. Now, this is rise, rise upon run. Great. Now, if you see, we are decreasing with the value of y. Can you see? Y2, over here, y2 is less than y1. So it's directly, or we can proudly say that, you know what, we are decreasing with the value of y. So you can say then that we are decreasing with the value of y, but we are increasing with the value. So increasing with the value of x. Can you see? Over here, x2 is greater than x1. So we can say this will have a negative slope. So this is the process you guys have to use. Trust me, any line is given, draw the two parallel lines, mark the points like this way. Trust me, 100% of the time, you guys will get a correct interpretation of the slope. You guys will always get the correct interpretation of the slope. Let's try to do some more practice. Now, let's suppose we are given with this scenario. Let's suppose, what about this? We are given a line parallel to x-axis. Now, let's try to do same process. Draw two parallel lines like this way. Now, let's say this is, we can say x1, y1. Let's say this is x2, y2, y1. Now, what is a slope? This is what? Rise upon run. Right? Now, what is a rise? Rise is, if you see, that is y1 minus y. You can write it over here, y1 minus y, because we are not changing with the value of y. When the line is parallel to x-axis, you are not changing with the value of y. Y value is fixed. This is what? x2 minus x1. Now, this will come out to be 0, 0 upon x2 minus x1. So this is going to be 0. So I can clearly say when the line is parallel to x-axis, this has a 0 slope. Can you see? It becomes really easy when you try to draw the two parallels like right this way. Now, let's suppose we take one more scenario. Now, let's suppose we have a line like this way. Now, over here, the things are going to be very tough. How you guys going to take a parallel line? You guys can take two parallel lines like this, isn't it? You guys can take two parallel lines like this way. Now, let's suppose this is going to be x1, y2. Now, let's suppose this is going to be what we can say x1, y1. Now, let's find out slope, rise upon run. Now, what is rise? Rise, if you see, that is y2 minus y1. Again, we are rising. Can you see? We have moved from this point to this point. Now, what is a run? Now, when you think of run, we are not running. We are standing at that point only. The line is passing like this way. The line is passing like this way. Now, this means what? This will be x1 minus x1. So this will be y2 minus y1 upon 0. Now, when you divide anything by 0, it is not defined. So I can clearly, again, I can proudly say that, you know what, this line has no slope. Or we can say not defined. I hope you guys are clear now. Any kind of a doubt? Any kind of a doubt? No doubt? Great. Now, I'll ask you some questions. Let's discuss some questions. Now, let's suppose if I write like this way, Let's suppose we are given with this equation. You guys need to find out the slope and you guys need to tell me the interpretation of the slope. Now let's suppose the slope will be 3. Now what's an actual meaning of 3? This value 3 means what? Now slope is what? Rise upon run, rise upon run. This means what? When I say the slope is positive 3, this means what? With the corresponding change, with the, we can say, you can think like this. With the change, with the 1 unit change in value of run, we are changing 3 unit value change in rise. Means what? With the corresponding 3 points change in the value of y, we are changing only 1 value with respect to x. Means what? I can say 3 change of y per x unit. You guys can think like this. This is like this. Let's say this is 1, this is 2. Now, if I take, let's say this point is 2, let's say this is a first point. So let's say this is a 5 point. This means what? With the corresponding change in the value of y as 3, we are only changing 1 value at x. I hope you guys can understand. You guys can draw like this. So this is a kind of level of understanding you should have for your SAT exam. I hope the things are clear now. Anyone have any kind of a doubt, any concern? No concern? Great. So that's it for the day. I hope you guys enjoyed the class. Still, if you guys have any kind of a doubt, you guys can always reach out to us, right? And we are happy to help you. So bye guys. Bye. Take care. See you in the next class. Till then, if there is one humble request, please practice, please revise whatever we have done in the class today. It is going to be really helpful for your further classes. So anyhow, bye. Have fun.